I think we see a lot of discussion about mental health in film. We see it in the movie Joker with Arthur Fleck, who actually suffers from mental health issues. We see it in Marvel's Moon Knight. I mean, Moon Knight actually is a character who suffers from dissociative identity disorder. And a lot of these movies don't play these themes as jokes. They actually tackle what it's really like to live and struggle with depression, themes of feeling like you're not good enough. And I feel like a lot of these movies, though they're fictionalized and have very unique, bizarre plots, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which focuses on themes of the multiverse, but has hidden themes of generational trauma. The idea that hurt people, and how that affects your mental health, are played out beautifully and empathetically on screen.
I would say in film, mental health is portrayed in a various amount of ways, but if you look at the Marvel films, they bring the community together. Avengers Endgame especially. We see a lot of representation of the 5 stages of grief and anxiety, every type of mental states within each of the characters. And we see a lot of the characters grow through these problems as well. I feel like in film, when we look at Avengers Endgame, specifically at Tony Stark, his character had a lot of growth through his anxiety and all the stages of grief and everything. Because if we look at where he came from to where he was by Endgame, he was scared, he was a little reluctant, he was definitely anxious about the whole situation. But by the time we get to the last, 40 so minutes, we see his character overcome the fears, make a big sacrifice, and we pretty much see 10, 15 years worth of characters come together to honor his legacy. So building more on the Tony Stark aspect of things with his growth as a character, we could also look at the aspect of the hero's journey. For example, Tony Stark had a big task in his hands. He had to either decide not to save the universe or risk his life and save the universe, and he evidently took the risk of taking his life to save the universe. So that shows a growth of courage and strength with his character arc. And we also see that in Neo from The Matrix as well. Because initially he didn't think he was the one to save the world from AI. But when he saved Morpheus, he had a strong believing that he could have been that person, and he was. And I think that has a huge growth in a lot of character arcs in the hero's journey in movies all over the world. So the more we look at Neo and Tony Stark and the hundreds of thousands of other characters over film over the years, we've seen a lot of characters go through the hero's journey arc and grow as a character. And if you relate that to real life, the more risks we take, it's healthier for us, especially dealing with anxiety and mental health issues, because it can really help us grow as a person and make ourselves better.
So, the way that mental health is portrayed in film, it depends. It depends on the context and what the character is going through. It could either be portrayed in a good way, in a good light, or in a bad light. And what movies that resonated with me in those themes are depending on what the character is going through. If we're looking into the psyche of the characters, we get to understand what's going on in their head and what's going through their life, The movies that deal with mental health that kind of resonated with me was Rocket Man. It's a strange choice, but hear me out. Elton John has went through some sort of childhood trauma. He doesn't have much love in his life, and he's dealing with his own identity. And he's going through. He's trying to discover himself, not as a musician, but as a person in general. And to me, I kind of understand what he's going through, and I understand his struggle when it comes to the lack of love that he has in his life. And I feel like love is definitely important in everybody's life, but it's not just from somebody, but also within yourself. It's important to have self-love as well, and that's what I like about Rocket Man.
think one of the biggest movies that resonates with me on themes of mental health, Pixar's Soul. It's a movie about it's a movie about two people. There's a guy named Joe. He's a musician, but he's always hard on himself, and he's missing out on seeing the real purpose in life, the real beauty in life, because of all these ambitions he has. He self-sabotages himself, and he believes that his only mission is to play music. But when he meets this soul named 22, there's this human message in the movie that they switch bodies in the film, and I was like, that's kind of overdone. But as you watch it, you realize that, like, it's telling you the message that, you know, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. She's able to learn that I have a life worth living. And sometimes it's hard, and we deal with things like imposter syndrome, where we feel like we're not good enough. But through the connection of other people and through learning from others, you're able to identify with certain things. And I've been able to do that with my friends, you know, be able to pick up on things from their cultures, from their lessons. I've been able to integrate that into my life the same way that I've been able to do that for others.